What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Brian Costa, and today I've got a great episode for you. I'm coming to you live from the Koffler Center with episode 199 of Down to the Wire. It's crazy. We're approaching episode 200. I'm hoping to get it done before I take off for graduation, but we'll see how things go. Senior week's been crazy, but first things first, I want to welcome on today's guest to the show. He has been, a guest on the show many times now. He's a great friend of mine, and we're going to talk some NBA news today, maybe even some MLB news if we have some time at the end of the show. But without further ado, please welcome back John Warren. John, how you doing, man?
Hi, how's it going? I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So how are you doing right now? I know that we kind of talked a little bit before the show. You're down at Mass Maritime wrapping up. I know you have like a later schedule. So how are things for you right now?
Good. Yeah, just wrapping everything up, getting school done. Really just finishing touches on
Sure.
great 4 years here down at the academy.
Yeah, it's been crazy here at Bryan as well. Everyone is just kind of taking it all in. We had our senior week. So on Monday, we had like a food truck festival. And then a couple of my friends, we went into the Red Sox game, unfortunately, it wasn't the best game for us. We lost 10-1 to the Mariners. But then, yesterday we actually had our senior ball. So it was almost kind of like a prom thing. And it was over at Gillette Stadium. So that was a ton of fun. So it was
Yeah.
good to just be out with everyone. It was packed over there. There were like 700 people. So it was definitely a wild time. It was also kind of interesting because over at Gillette right now, they're setting up for the Taylor Swift concert. And
Right.
typically they let you go outside on like the balcony and stuff. But because like the whole stage and everything right there is under construction, they're afraid that would genuinely like stow away and sleep in Gillette Stadium for 2 nights just to stay for the concert. They are genuinely concerned for that. So we
Crazy.
we weren't able to go outside on like the deck, but other than that, it was a great time. And now tonight, I'm actually recording the show a little bit early. Tonight at like 5, we have the president's reception, so we're doing like a little champagne toast over there. So that'll be kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but John, you said you wrap up June 1st.
Yeah, so for us, it's a later schedule because we have C term. So
Yeah.
like unlike typical colleges, they're trying to get around this now, but you start around late March. You start like
Mhm.
March 1st, March 5th. So it's later than typical college, and you get like a 3 month winter break. But yeah, so for us seniors, I have my capstone project for my senior design. Took all the testing I need to, so it's really just no finals. It's finishing strong, hitting that dead mark. Last presentation is on May 31st, and then finals week. But during the finals week, you're really off. That's like our senior week, that like June 6th, that whole week, and then June 17th, graduation. And that's really it, wrapping it up.
Yeah, that's really cool. I know, yeah, it's kind of the same thing with us. Like it's just all coming to a head all at once. And, that was our finals week. And now this is what we have now. But John, I did bring you on the show. You had mentioned to me that, following Sunday's, crazy win by the Boston Celtics in game 7, that you wanted to come back on the pod to talk some Tatum, talk just the season in general. And wow, just what a weekend this was for Boston sports. The Celtics in this series against the 76ers at times looked absolutely putrid. We looked awful against this team. And, we were blowing leads in like late in the fourth quarter. We were suffering in overtime. And we just looked like we were getting outmatched for like a solid 2.5 games of this series. We just looked completely like out of whack. And, I had some serious concerns as to whether this team was going to have enough to advance back to the Eastern Conference Finals. And over those past 2 games, a lot of questions, came about and a lot of answers, were seen as well. I mean, in game 6, the main concern was that Jayson Tatum was not hitting any shots. He was just like, he just could not connect from the field. I think he had 8 points entering the fourth quarter. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then he just goes off and he just turns into, just like Michael Jordan. He just becomes like a ridiculously, he just becomes a scoring machine. It was crazy. And we ended up seeing that carry over into game 7 where he goes out and he drops 51 points. I actually have his whole line right here. If I scroll down, he played 42 minutes and then he had 51 points, 13 assists, and 13 rebounds and 5 assists. I mean, that's a ridiculous
Monster.
stat line.
Yeah, it's monster game for
Yeah.
Tatum. I mean, He's real. It's crazy to think that he's like he's not older, but like for the amount of how like young he is and the amount of experience in the playoffs he has, like with the play-in tournaments, even younger, like way back in the day, like the Kyrie days when Kyrie was injured and we were playing the Cleveland team where Tatum was really just trying his best and he dunked on LeBron, that iconic moment.
Yeah.
But it's crazy to think now that he's really started to mature, and I think as much as he does have misses here and now and then, like scoring wise, like he'll get on hot streaks and then he'll get cold. He's always trusting himself, and he know that he holds himself to a high enough standard that he can hit those shots. And it's really nice to see the coaching see that and the team see that as well, that they're going to keep trying to give him opportunities, because like Sunday you'll have those games where he'll score like the most amount of points in a game 7.
Yeah. I mean, it's the most points. Actually, it's funny because Sam Jones had the record previously for a long time in the NBA for Game 7 all time scoring, and then just a couple weeks ago, Steph Curry broke it with a 50-point game, and then Tatum just took it back and had with the 51. So. You're right. Tatum over the past couple of years, he has shown some sense of maturity, but even in my mind, though, I thought that it had been a while since we had really seen Tatum kind of take over a game. He was able to accumulate points and, put up a good number, but you never really saw him take over a game for a good couple years now. I'd say possibly even since like the bubble where he was, putting up stats there. And I just say that mainly because last year he was hurt. He had the shoulder injury, which kind of hampered him. And, the Celtics, we were good enough to get past the Heat that year and unfortunately fell to the Warriors in 6. But this feels like the Jayson Tatum dunking over LeBron moment. This is another moment for him in building his legacy of just showing like, hey, he even said it. I'm one of the best players in this league. I know that he's one of the best players in the world. And, he goes out there and proves it for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this was definitely a statement game, and I'm glad that he said what he said. And I think it was needed because even like as a player, like sometimes you just gotta like remind yourself. Like I see athletes doing it all the time now. Like I'm him, I'm him, I'm him. And sometimes you really gotta say that. And
No,
like
he had his I'm him moment there. Like he
yeah,
actually went
definitely.
out and he was stellar. He was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, even when I hate the Jason Tatum slander that everyone gives him is like, oh, he's not consistent. Oh, it's like, what if, like, how could, like, good he could be and all this? Because regardless of him missing shots and everything else, he'll still be in the right position. He'll still play incredible defense, which I think he's completely underrated. He's a great defender.
Mhm.
And his ability to play make and just see everyone else in the open shots. I mean, the Celtics with Brad Stevens now in the office, like have really just built this very deep, good contender.
Yeah.
And I think, they suffered some early struggles like most teams do, but I'm really glad that you're getting it out of the way. You're going to 6 with these teams that are all competitive. I mean, the bubble isn't, and like the play-in tournaments are seeming to be a lot more real, and like you can really have people go on runs. So I'm really glad you're getting it out of the way and you're facing these challenges early on, because like upcoming tonight, like the Heat are gonna be a problem. Like
Yeah. No, I mean, we'll talk about the Heat too, but just to finish off with this 76ers thing, it's not like game 6 we had to kind of we eventually, pulled ahead, but we were trailing in that game at certain points and it really didn't look like things were going to go in our favor and then Tatum turned things on and it was over from then on. But it wasn't just the fact that like we escaped with a win against the 76ers. We killed them in this game. I mean, the final score was 112-88. Like this was a
yeah,
massacre. And I remember I actually it was Mother's Day, so I actually went out to go grab like a bite to eat with my mom. We were picking up like I think it was like ice cream or something. And it was like a 5 or 10 it was like a 5-point game in favor of the Celtics at that point. I was like, "All right, it's a close game. This is what it's going to be." And by the time I get back, we're up 25 points. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell has happened? And the
yeah,
76ers, they just could not find the bottom of the net in this game 7. It was
right.
ridiculous. And frankly, this is what I thought the Celtics should have been doing to the 76ers. I understand, you know, give credit to Joel Embiid. He deserved this year's MVP award. Even give credit to James Harden because he balled out in game one and was fantastic in
Right.
certain stretches for this team. But I think this Celtics team is as deep as that. It's definitely more talented, but in terms of depth, it's similar to that 2018 core where you had like Kyrie and Tatum and Brown, and you had all those guys off the bench with Terry Rozier and all those guys. Just that depth, I felt like we were going to be able to outlast the Sixers.
Yeah,
And
I would agree.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
I personally thought that this could have been really a 5-game series, and I think the Celtics stretched it out. I really think that we just shot ourselves in the foot way too many times, and that's what ended up costing us. But credit to Tatum. He was able to find his groove and got us back to where we were last year, facing the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. But before we get on to that, want to stick with the 76ers real quick because they actually have some breaking news out of there, and that's that head coach Doc Rivers has been fired after 3 seasons with the team. They did this a couple years ago with I think it was Brett Brown or Bruce Brown, I forget. But they fired the coach there, and they did it because they said this team isn't performing. We want to take this core and go over the top to the next level, and they tried to do that by going out trading for James Harden, surrounding Embiid with talent, and they still can't get over that hump. And Doc Rivers again just can't get it done in a game 7. I think this is like his seventh consecutive like elimination game loss, or like 10th or
yeah,
something like that. It's crazy.
yeah. It's really surreal to see him surrounded with the amount of talent. Like,
Mhm.
talk about the Celtics teams, the Clippers teams. Like the Clippers, I guess, like they're kind of underwhelming always,
I,
but
I I never really thought the Clippers were going to be able to get it done. They just always felt like kind of just like a dog and pony show. It was never like any.
yeah, it's
It was
more just Lob City
Yeah,
than
it was never
stuff.
anything I really took seriously. Like, yeah, Chris Paul's a generational player. Blake Griffin, when he was in his prime, was awesome. But and then DeAndre Jordan had his moments, but I never really thought the Clippers were going to make a legitimate run. I never had that feeling with them. But
Right. So
but you
it's
want to talk
crazy.
about, but yeah, you want to talk about the talent that Doc Rivers has had, and really, in both your and my opinion, wasted over his time as a head coach. It's astounding. I mean, I thank him and I credit him for getting us that championship in 2008. But for the core that we had at that time of having Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, young Rondo, when he was, debatably one of the best point guards in the league, to only get one championship out of that
Big
core,
perk.
and Big Perk, of course, down low. To only get one championship out of that group is ridiculous. I mean, I remember we went down to the Orlando Magic and we ended up losing to Dwight Howard. I mean, credit to him. He was out of this world at that time in his career, but we shouldn't have been doing that. We shouldn't have been blowing stuff like that. And this is a reputation that's now followed Doc Rivers for a good portion of his career. Like you said, even with a talented core out in LA, couldn't really get past like the second round. Wasn't able to really just advance and be as dynamic of a coach. And I thought he had a good team with this Philly squad. I think that the Celtics were better than them, but just to get bounced again and to not be able to get over the hump, like, I don't know. What do you think about Doc Rivers' like legacy? Do you think like he is, kind of like, would you label him a choker at this point?
It's hard to say because
Because
I
it's
feel
it's
like
weird. It's
I
weird
feel
because
like it's not as much as it is on him that it is on the physical players he has because
I don't know
I
about that
mean,
though, because I'm seeing a lot of former players actually come out against Doc Rivers because um to go back to those Clippers teams when JJ Redick was playing on the team, Doc Rivers, he had mentioned in talking about Philadelphia, he said like, oh, when I coached those Clippers teams, the reason we didn't win is because the guys didn't buy in and they weren't committed. And
right.
he was throwing a lot of like he was throwing those guys under the bus, throwing some shade at those guys. And as soon as the 76ers got eliminated, JJ Redick hopped on Twitter and said like, oh, I wonder if those guys were committed or not, and just like throwing it right back in Doc Rivers' face and saying like, "Hey, like you have the talented players, why can't you get more out of them?"
Yeah, and that's true. But you got to think, you got James Harden at you could say honestly, the end of his career right now, like the
I don't know
post.
about the end. He's at the end of his
He's
peak.
he's at the end of his prime. He's not hitting the shots that he's used to. People have really figured out his game from 2016, 2017, 2018. I mean, you have a, I guess you could say, MVP. I mean, I thought Jokic
Embiid,
should have won
Embiid's
it,
an
but
MVP. Embiid deserves an MVP. He is a very good
he
player.
does. 2 years ago, he deserved the MVP. This year, it should have been Jokic, and it shows clearly in the playoffs by the type of play. I get Embiid's injured. If Embiid's injured this year, you don't give him the MVP. He was out for a good portion. I think this year, and a little off topic, but I completely get like and understand like he should have won an MVP by this point. Yeah, he should have like a year or two ago when Jokic first won his first or second. I think when Jokic won his first, Embiid was a far superior player, and even last year you could say. But this year, I think you should have gone to Jokic. That's just my opinion. I know Jokic is really could even just pick out almost every single game. Jokic just shows up and balls. That's all he does.
Yeah.
Like he's one of those Kawhi type players. Like, oh, I'm just gonna hang out, relax, and then just gonna play a little bit of basketball, and then he just completely dominates everyone. But
Mhm.
I think it's more just on the fact that he has these really talented rosters. I mean, Maxi, you got Embiid, you got Harden. Even Harden, like at the level he is now, and he's just passing and he can make those plays, and he's going to be that veteran leadership on the team. Tobias Harris, All Star, I think a couple years ago. Like, it's crazy to think. I mean, that they haven't gotten as far as they should, but it's almost you got to think like the Celtics were facing those Kobe teams. Like, it's
Yeah.
really could also just
I mean,
be.
but when you say the Kobe teams, it was Kobe and Powell, and then just a bunch of scrubs they found off the side of the road. That was it.
Bro. Yeah. But like you gotta think, like the South like LeBron, like a couple of years, like we couldn't beat LeBron. Like there's like it's almost like bad luck, I would say. A little bit of mix of both because I think he can put his teams in the situations and he's good enough, more than good enough to recruit the players because if there's a reason like JJ Redick saying like, oh, like are you guys not buying in and all this, there's a reason they keep coming to him. There's a reason he keeps landing these dudes. So I don't know. It's very hard to think because it has to be a balance in between the both because I feel like he's just ending up in bad situations. But then there's also you could point an aspect to the players not believing in him, but that could also just be because of the bad luck. Like
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's players not that it's bad luck. Um I would label him as like kind of a playoff choker, and it's weird because he has won the big one. Like you could say that about a lot of guys, and then it's usually like, oh, once they get that championship, like they're good. And it's like, oh, he finally got his. Like, all right, like the debate's over. Like you can like respect the guy for getting that championship. But in my opinion, it's kind of just like the old saying, like a broken clock is right twice a day. Like eventually, like when you have enough of that talent and and you're surrounded by so much just by so many weapons, eventually you will just hit. Like eventually you're
yeah,
gonna, just break through and win something. And I think that's what we saw in 2008, especially with just that crazy influx of talent that Celtics team had at that time. And I think that's just kind of the case with Doc Rivers. I don't know um, I mean, we saw it again. Like he wasn't able to break through with those Celtics teams more than once. I mean, and some of those losses in the playoffs were absolute choke jobs. So I don't necessarily know. It's kind of an up in the air thing. I would say more on the side like you should almost treat him as if he hasn't won one, even though, give him his credit. He's a
yeah,
Hall
I
of
would say
Famer.
that's safe to say.
But yeah, I just don't see him as like a championship caliber coach, at least at this point in his career, not anymore.
Yeah, I would say that's kind of fair to say. I mean, it's almost like the Aaron Rodgers type deal.
Mhm.
Like I would say like he won one early
Yeah.
and now we have yet
That's
to
a
see
great
it again.
comparison. That's a great comparison. Yeah. It's very similar where they had that
As
success
much
early
as
on.
he's so talented, can get the guys, can do the plays, everything else, he always finds himself choking in the
He
NFC
could
Championship.
never replicate it. Could never replicate
I
it.
don't know.
And
He
I
has
just don't
those
know
great
why.
defenses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, that's the deal with Doc Rivers. I know that as we advance further in the NBA playoffs right now, John, you had mentioned it, the fact that um the four teams remaining in this playoffs were the exact four teams that met up in the bubble 3 years ago. And a lot of people are saying, like, hey, does this kind of legitimize the bubble a little bit more? Because it actually shows like, all right, like the best teams, like they actually could play a legitimate regular season, no COVID restrictions, no like anything like that, and still get to this place. So, in your mind, does the bubble get a little bit more legitimized by the results that we're seeing right now?
I would say yes.
You would say, yeah. Did you
I would
see?
say yes.
Did you even view the bubble as legit before? I want to know your opinion.
I think you had to do something.
No, no, no. I'm
And
not saying that the NBA didn't have to do something, but a lot of people consider like that Lakers championship to kind of be like a Mickey Mouse ring, and they don't
I
count it
think
as
it's
much as like
not.
the others.
I mean, you got to think like all the same players were there. You
Hmm.
take out COVID, you put in a couple fans, exact same thing. I think people just love to, it's a lot easier to hate the bad guy when he wins, in this
Yeah,
case, LeBron.
yeah,
So, I mean, there's that, but you got to think like it led to some great storylines. It was almost like it's weird because it's not traditional, and that's why people hate it. It goes that way in baseball, it goes that way in football, it always goes that way. But I think it was legitimate. Like as it was legit. As much as people want to say it's not, it was a real championship. So
yeah. I would say it's pretty legit too, especially based on the fact that up until that point, a lot of those guys they did play a full NBA season, so a lot of those records were, kind of just as they were. Like it was a very legitimate seeding up until that point. I know that the Suns kind of got screwed because they went and then they weren't able to make the playoffs, but they went off and there was different storylines like that. But I would say I would say this was a pretty this kind of legitimizes a little bit more. And this is coming from someone that really didn't view the bubble that highly. I kind of thought that it was kind of rinky dink, kind of just kind of stupid. And I was rooting for the Celtics when they were in it, but I really never got that invested in it because I just could never like completely buy in. And
right, exactly.
personally, like if the Lakers go on and win the championship this year, I think it'll legitimize that ring that they won in the bubble, and people will actually say like, all right, credit to LeBron on that. He actually, they had the best team in that circumstance, and had they been playing things out in the regular season, chances are they would have won then. So that's kind of how I look at it.
Right. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that, yeah, like the I guess the teams that are all in it right now are all from the bubble. It's kind of crazy
And
that
and to be honest with you, like a lot of those teams haven't changed like too much. It's not like the Celtics got a complete overhaul. I know that we've added Malcolm Brogdon, we've had some new stars coming to the team,
like Derek White,
and
yeah.
yeah, and Derek White, but the real like backbone and the foundations of each team hasn't changed too much. The Heat are still reliant on Jimmy Butler. The Celtics is still run through Tatum and Brown. The Lakers, it's Braun and AD, and then the Nuggets
Got some
obviously.
role players, right.
Yeah, and then the Nuggets, it's Jokic. Like all those teams, like their core players have not changed. It's not like the Celtics traded away Tatum and Brown, and now we have Harden and Embiid. It's like the teams are relatively similar. So now we're just gonna have to see if it's a similar matchup as last time. I like the Celtics in this Heat series. I think that the Heat are very banged up, but I don't question Jimmy Butler. For whatever reason, in playoff time, he just becomes an absolute monster.
Do you think it would be fair to say that the modern day Kobe is Jimmy Butler in that aspect?
I don't know
That
about that because
comes
Kobe
down
could
to clutch
just.
times and it comes down to clutch moments and the love of the game and just going and digging everything you have. Would you give it more to Jimmy Butler than Jayson Tatum in these upcoming these
Oh, I would
past
give I would
years?
give it more to Jimmy Butler 100%. Yeah. Like
Right.
if you're comparing it to Jayson Tatum, then yeah. If you're saying is Jimmy Butler the Kobe of our generation, I say no. But if you want to argue in this series, what player has that kind of ability more in them? It's easily Jimmy Butler. He's proved
Right.
it time and time again. He's not afraid to take the big shot. He's gone to the finals. He's had that success for multiple times now. And it's so weird to me because I see Jimmy Butler and I see his play style, and I just don't understand how he wills these teams to victory.
Right.
Because I've always known that he's a great player, but I've always kind of just been like, yeah, like he's like a solid like two guy on like a championship team. I could see that, and it's weird because like I just feel like I don't even know what his like specialty is. It is his mid range, I'd say. Like he's dead
Yeah.
in the mid range game, But I swear, I just like turn on the TV and Jimmy Butler in a playoff game has like 46 points. It's like, how the hell did he even do that?
Yeah, it's
It,
weird
it,
just
it's
how
a,
he
it's a,
goes
it,
about
it's
everything.
it's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
he can just absolutely torch teams. I mean, we saw it in the Knicks series where
Right.
he was out with that ankle injury, and they only lost by like single digit points, and he was like smirking because he knew like, all right, at that point the series is over. Once I get back, we're gonna roll through these guys. And then
Right.
it's the same thing with the Bucks because although Giannis was out, once he got back, like the Heat still took it to that team.
Right. And that's huge. I mean, beating the Bucks is a real challenge, I think.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I mean, you want to talk about MVP caliber players? You're going against Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like you're going to have a legitimate challenge. And Jimmy Butler, he doesn't shy away from it. He runs towards that adversity.
right, exactly. And I think the greatest thing about Jimmy Butler is just the way he holds himself too, like just the whole aspect. The video after the Celtics won, he's like, Boston, I'll see you there. Let's get it, go Heat. It's very Jordan-esque, like Kobe-esque, like the very
No, he holds himself in that regard, which is
very
which is which is impressive because, um, we're
especially to back it up as much as I think he does. And
yeah,
that's what's crazy, I think,
because
is that
because
he's
he
not
does
that much of an outspoken guy. And then he'll sometimes like just pop up like, oh, it's Jimmy Butler. And then he'll say like the T Wolves thing, like, and then he'll just like completely whoop the starters with the G League team.
yeah.
And then go on there and be like, yeah, you guys should have paid me. And then like that's it. Like it's crazy to think like
No, it is
some
crazy
moments
because
he'll
like
just be like, I'm him. And then he just does it.
no, I'll say this. As a Celtics fan, I respect the hell out of Jimmy Butler. For what he's able to do, like again, like he doesn't have like that superstar kind of attention that the media doesn't really give that to him. He kind of almost feels like an underdog when you're rooting for him, or at least when you're watching him play, even though like he's one of the best players on the court.
That's a great
He
example.
knows
Yeah.
it, but it just feels like an underdog story. It just feels like, all right, like he shouldn't be here. Like this shouldn't be happening, but he's going out and he's doing that. He's doing it anyways. It's
Right.
crazy.
Right. I agree with you though that your earlier take. I do believe that the Celtics should win. I think the Celtics are going to win in like 5 or 6. I think
I
it
don't know
could,
about that. I see
I
6 or
think
7.
I think it could get dragged out, but I think at this point, the Celtics really need to stop messing around and seriously play. I mean, you got to think like you gotta get over that hill. And the one thing I'm really nervous about is that the Lakers and both the Nuggets look like superior teams right now, especially the way the Lakers have really just. We always knew the Nuggets were legit, and this was just like a really. It's weird to say the Nuggets because like they're like okay,
Yeah,
but at least this year it seemed like kind of a different type of beast. Not that Jokic is like the MVP, like all this stuff. It was more well, like the whole team's just clicking. Like Michael Porter Jr. is finally living up to what he was drafted to be.
yeah,
Like he's starting to hit shots. Like the whole team, Jamal Murray, super underrated player, really starting to pick it up right now. And it just really gets in their bench. Their bench is ridiculous too. So it's really crazy to like think about the Western Conference and who they're really going to play besides, like it's comparing last year's finals to what this year's finals could potentially be. I'm really excited because it's not going to be as many just pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll Steph Curry.
yeah. It's actually going to test out the physical toughness of this team if they can advance. And I don't think it's a sure thing. I mean, Jimmy Butler, he was a shot away last year. Don't forget that from sending the Celtics home. If he hits that 3-pointer, the Celtics aren't in the finals last year.
Right.
So, they are more than capable of extending this thing out. And I say this about the Heat, and it's just they are pesky. They are a thorn in your side. They do not go away. It doesn't matter if you beat up on them in game one. They're going to come out in game two just as hungry. You cannot, they do
Right.
not get down. So you have to have your foot on the gas the entire time. And the reason I think it's going to get extended is because Jayson Tatum isn't going to score 51 points every single night. He's not
Right.
going to do that. I mean, you might get 30, you might get 25, something like that. He'll put up good numbers, but you're not going to see 50 every night.
Right.
What you have to realize is like, all right, I understand that in the NBA, the coaching isn't all that big a deal, but down the stretch, Joe Mazzulla is going to have to make choices as
Yeah.
to whether Marcus Smart's going to be out there on the final possession, or if he wants Derek White or Malcolm Brogdon.
Right.
Managing the timeouts, which in the 76ers series hurt us early on because in game, I believe 4, we had 2 timeouts on the board, had the ability to drop a play, and instead we let the time roll out, and Marcus Smart, hits the, is late at the buzzer. So
Right.
we need to make sure that things are right there, because
Right.
otherwise that's how this series gets extended. It's not necessarily going to be through the play of those guys, but if we are mismanaged, that could really hurt us.
Yeah, and I think that speaks volumes as well. Just to say that about the coaching, honestly, Eric Spoelstra does not get the credit at
Oh my
all
God, no.
he deserves.
He's amazing.
He
For
has never been nominated or even anything for Coach of the Year. He's in the Eastern Conference Finals again for like the third straight year, and I think that speaks volumes to the way he's been coaching. And I feel like he never got a lot of credit early on, especially
he seriously deserves credit for what he
because everyone was saying it's Pat Riley just whispering in his ear, like telling him what to do. But like, damn, like I think the lot of the credit of the Heat should seriously go to him, and just the way he draws up, like the whole game plan he has is really fantastic as compared to, the Doc Rivers, like the other coaches we've seen where it's kind of like starting to fade away. Even you could say Steve Kerr, and just his entire offensive plan is, well, get Steph the ball and pick and roll and shoot and just have a couple people cut in the middle for layups. But it's just crazy to think. So I'm really excited to see how Joe's really going to go about that, because he needs to seriously really have to showcase like the Celtics are a defensive team, and showcase that, and then have the shooters outside also can't make any silly mistakes like you were saying as well.
No, yeah, because that's what's going to kill us down the stretch. So I think if we manage this thing out well, I think that we have a good shot to put this thing away. So just gonna have to wait and see how that goes. But John, before we switch over to some MLB news, I want to talk about some other NBA topics that are kind of pressing right now, and that's the draft lottery. So that just happened the other night, and the San Antonio Spurs ended up getting the number 1 pick, meaning that they have the rights to select generational superstar Victor Wembanyama. And I don't think I've talked about Wembanyama on this show, but if you do not know about him, which John, I know you do, but for the people that are listening to this, if you do not know about Victor Wembanyama, he is about to take over the league. He's like 7'2". He's built. He can dribble. He can shoot. He is ridiculous. Like
He is
he is a unicorn, Giannis level type player. Probably is going to be like one of the next faces of the league if everything goes right and he doesn't get injured. Like
right.
he feels like a surefire superstar.
Yeah, especially with playing in the Euro League and everything else. I mean, you
Because
see all the talk
he's
about
lighting it up in the EuroLeague too.
Luca. Yeah, like Luca was playing some real competition as early as 14, 15 years old. And
Mm,
those he was matched up against Kyrie, I think, when he was like 17.
yeah.
Like they're playing real competition overseas. And I mean, especially those younger guys now coming to the league, it's all starting to make sense. While you just like see those Europeans get drafted, you're like, these guys are really good.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to think how the translation goes over. But I mean, yeah, the dude's ridiculous. Like he's Kevin Durant if he was 7'5". Like
Yeah.
with post, like I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see how he pans out in the league.
Yeah. And I
Because
mean,
you had Chet, that guy
at
for the
home. Yeah.
Thunder. Yeah, Chet, who was we still have yet to see him play just due to, him getting absolutely ran over by LeBron.
Oh my God. Yeah.
But I'm really interested to see how this new generation, because the new generation seems to be a super tall big man who can shoot.
Yeah, it's
And
it's ridiculous, and then I think the Kevin Durant comp is going to be is a good one. I mean, Kevin Durant for a while just seemed like a freak, and this guy's going to make him seem like an undersized guard at this point, which is ridiculous. So,
right,
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what he can do, and he's going to the San Antonio Spurs with Greg Popovich. People thought that Pop was going to retire, but I think that he might stick around a little bit longer if he has a chance to develop this kid, because this kid is special. And who knows, if you can get some pieces, you can, maybe start to build a future down there again. And it's been a while since they've had a real dynamic superstar. I know that, you had Robinson back in the day, David Robertson. You had Tim Duncan, and then you had Kawhi. But a really superstar caliber player like this, the Spurs have not seen in a while. So I think that this could be a very, very scary group.
Yeah, and I'm very excited because I know Pop, if anyone,
This will
and
definitely reinvigorate Pop.
exactly Pop, if anyone knows how to really grow a player,
Yeah.
I would say he would be the one guy in the league that if I was Victor, you can see by his reactions on the TV, if I had one team to go to, I would want to be coached by Pop because he, if anyone, is going to really unlock this unicorn
Mhm.
or what it can really bring to the modern day game.
Yeah. And, that's going to be really exciting to see. I know another team that was kind of making noise around the lottery was the Detroit Pistons, because they had the worst record in the NBA this year. They were, I think, five losses worse than anyone else. And
Right.
yeah, like all those Detroit Piston fans are pissed because they had to watch their team just suffer throughout this entire year, be absolutely awful. And in
Yeah.
their mind, now they're going to get, quote, a nobody at number 5. You'll probably get a good player at that pick,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
you're not getting Victor Wembanyama. You're not getting that
Yeah,
now.
no. You're
So they
still getting a top two, top three out of those the overtime leagues and everything
yeah,
else with all
and
the NIL deals.
yeah, so no, so you're gonna get a good player, but I've been seeing a lot of Pistons fans really pissed off about the fact that their team tanked this year and didn't actually like play to win. And now that we're seeing that this as the result, and this is this is showing the way that the draft lottery has changed. And I know that some people are saying that the lottery is fixed because people are saying like, oh, the Spurs are a much better location, more of it's more historic location to go to at this point than the Pistons. I know that they have their championship pedigree as well, but the city in San Antonio probably just seems like a sexier option than going to Detroit, which is kind of in turmoil right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. Like everyone always talks about like the Patrick Ewing situation. Ewing's
Yeah,
coming to New York and
frozen envelope.
all that, but it also kind of speaks to the players. Like if you're not really playing to win, like a lot of NBA stars have come out saying a lot of like Paul George in his podcast has been coming out saying a lot of NBA players are a bunch of dudes who just want to get paid. And that's why your buddy said you can play basketball, so you go and play basketball and you're really just there to make a paycheck. So I think it kind of you got to think about the how like the Mavs even tanked and like some other teams started tanking
I
and
mean,
it
what the
really
Mavericks
just
did
said,
was ridiculous. I mean, they ended up getting fined for it because they were resting players. They had an opportunity to make the playoffs, and they said like, we're just going to go for a higher pick in the draft.
yeah, and it's crazy to think about that now. Like a little bit of the competitive edge has been taken off. Like it really speaks on the players and the coaches because are they really just sitting there as much as like, obviously you're in the NBA and you're going to try to want to play as best as you can. It really starts to, I guess, stir that conversation. Are you guys really just here for a paycheck? Because the minimum salary in the NBA is close to $1 million a year. So it really just you got to really start to look into that. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's crazy to think though. I mean, there are some really good guys picked at number 5 too. Dwayne Wade was 5. Kevin Garnett was 5. I mean, you got some dudes there. So I wouldn't be out Detroit Pistons fans if I were them. I
Yeah.
would just say you got a young core. They're
Yeah.
not terrible either.
Yeah, no, they're
They're
not terrible. I mean, they got a good
on
core. So
paper they look good. They're just super young, so they're gonna lose a lot of games.
yeah. So we'll have to see how that all builds out. But John, that's kind of what I have in NBA news for us. Before we do go, I know you wanted to talk about the Boston Red Sox. I got to see them the other night. I mentioned that at the top of the hour. Got to see them. Tanner Houck looked solid at first. Then things got a little bit rocky. Um, yeah, especially based on the fact that we ended up losing 10-1 to the Mariners. So it got a little
Right.
scary in that game. We were able to bounce back yesterday, had a good win. Apparently Alex Verdugo actually gave a locker room like pep talk to like to like his teammates saying like, hey, we got to get back on track, and is starting to kind of emerge as a captain of this team, which is interesting because a lot of people thought that was going to be Kike Hernandez. Some people thought it was going to be Rafael Devers. And now it's Alex Verdugo, which I don't hate that. I think that he's really embracing the Boston culture, which not a lot of guys can do. And I'll give him credit for that. Like he is seeming to really, take that leadership position.
Yeah, no, definitely. He's really good. I mean, culture wise, he brings everything you want. Like he lives and dies by the booze. Like he'll get hot and he'll love it and he'll soak it up. He'll wear the big chains and everyone loves it.
Mm.
And then also sometimes that comes with him struggling and everything else, but you still love him, but you gotta hate him and kind of bring on that. So I think he really does understand that in Boston, especially like all the Boston sports teams, there's more pressure than most places to win. And I think there's more than enough evidence to show that. And especially with the way they're trending, I mean, offensively, they're there and they're starting to win games and put together a little bit of a competitive team, but you got to keep that consistency. I 100% agree, but yeah, it is very weird to see that because you really would think him being, I wouldn't say newly acquired, but he's not been around as long as some of the other guys, and he's really just stepping up and being that guy. So I think it's very interesting, but I also think it's very, very, very good because it's a very good surprise that he would be the locker room guy.
Yeah, and like you said, it's like the increase in production is also helping that case as well. Because if you're a struggling player trying to take over a locker room and be a voice, it's kind of difficult because people can say like, "Hey, man, like why aren't you producing on the field?" So, it's worthy of the way he's been performing this year, and I'll give the Sox credit; they are in last place right now, but they would be a first place team in almost every other division in baseball. That's just a testament to how ridiculously stacked the AL East is this year. So, um,
Exactly. Shout out Baltimore.
yeah, shout out to Adley Rutschman in Baltimore. They're doing crazy. The Rays just started running away with this thing, but they're starting to tail back now because I know they're having some injury issues. So,
Right.
um, yeah, it could be very interesting down the stretch. Um, I don't know. This is definitely a little bit different. Like I don't know how to feel about this Red Sox team right now, to be honest with you.
I think it's fun.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it right now. As we start to get like near the All-Star break, I'm going to get a little bit more concerned if we're still in this position. I think that um I do know that this is more of a bridge year. I understand what this year is, but I think that we need to, if we're going to even try to push for like a wild card spot or something, you're going to need to see something change. And
Yeah.
the big thing that we've been saying is the pitching. The pitching's been
Atrocious.
really
There's
weak
no
for us
other
this
way
year.
around it.
I mean, when your best pitcher has like a 4.5 ERA, that's when you know it's bad.
I mean, yeah,
Like
it's,
like we don't have like a single starting pitcher with an ERA in the threes.
I
We
mean,
it's bad.
I'm just gonna say this. I went to one Red Sox game this year. We let up 2 home runs to Joey Gallo. Two,
Oh
same
God.
game. Like
Yeah.
unreal. Like last year, that guy was
Awful.
terrible.
He was terrible.
And now we're looking at him homering twice against the Sox and them getting out to a 7-0 lead in the second.
Mhm.
I mean, granted, we battled back and we put up runs, but you can't do that. They keep putting themselves in holes and being like, all right, we're just going to swing our way out of this.
Yeah.
And it's terrible to see because that is not the way you should try to win baseball games.
Yeah. And I mean, you want to talk about like winning baseball games and just the way that the game is played now too. Just like these rule changes, John, that are going on with the game, it's really making a difference. And it was something that I saw a little bit last year down at AAA. I got to see the pitch clock. I got to see, the pitch clock's the big one, but even the bigger bases and just different things like that. The game is really changing. I mean, stolen bases are up like a ridiculous amount this year. I think that some guys already have like 20 stolen bases in the middle of May,
Right.
which you only used to see from like the top upper echelon of like guys like the Ricky Hendersons like would have like 20, 30 steals by now. Now just like everyday players have that. So the game in that aspect is changing because guys are just stealing more and more because the bags are bigger, it's a shorter distance, and they're saying like, all right, this is the way we got to play. And
Right.
also and we're also now seeing it with the pitch clock. I felt it at the Red Sox game. Like a bunch of my friends, it was a bunch of us from Bryant. We were just sitting there, and like 30 minutes into the game, we're already entering the third inning. So like by the time we were getting to that point, I'm like, oh my God, like we were just like running away with this thing. And yeah, all right. Looks like we lost John for a second, but that's all good. Um, yeah, I'll say this about the pitch clock. Not a big fan of it when it came in. I think it's going to slowly not become as big of an issue as it was, but I think that yeah, I think it definitely has enough potential to work out down the stretch. I was not a big fan of it when it first started, but I think that it could be good. What do you think about the pitch?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, sorry, I had to do something.
No worries.
I think I think the pitch clock, it's very weird because like I think it's so good for the game, but it also stresses so much on the pitchers. And it's very weird. I mean, like let's say like you're gonna implement this rule 5 years from now, so pitchers can start to worry about it, like start fixing it and everything else. I get why they're doing it. I mean, I would say if anything, the MLB has really stepped up their marketing
Yeah,
more or less in the games because
because
that was the big issue.
that was the big
That
issue.
was
For me, it wasn't even time of play. Like I understand like that people wanted to speed the game up, but for me, it wasn't time of play. It was the fact that they just sucked at marketing their players. They could not like figure out a way to take these guys that are from baseball is one of the most like global games in the country. Like you have guys from all over the world that play this game. You have people from Asia, the Dominican Republic, from the United States, from everywhere, every like corner of the world. There is a baseball player, and they couldn't figure out how to tap into that market. And you are right; they are starting to actually promote these guys better now.
I mean, you got to think about the World Baseball Classic this year. I
That
mean,
was that was huge.
that was the I think really from that standpoint, that's what really was the judging factor of how good this year baseball was going to be
Mhm.
for the MLB and everywhere else because you have all these big name guys now joining the team. You're doing it's almost like what the dream team did
Yeah,
when having all these big name stars on the team and then you're like, "Oh my God, I can see them play at my hometown," like and all these like local guys. Like, so I think it's really good for the sport. Like, as much as I hate to say it, the pitch clock, the new rules, the marketing, like
it's
I think
working.
I think it is working, which is I hate to say it. I love the traditional rules. I
I do
love
too. I do like the traditional rules better. I don't like the fact that pickoffs are limited. I don't like that.
I
Uh,
don't like I do like I mean there's certain rules. I do like the shift rule. I
you
think
do?
that is good. I think it is good for the sport.
No.
I do like the
There actually was an Alex
series.
Verdugo single I saw at Fenway where I know last year that thing would have been grounded right into the shift. I knew for a fact.
Exactly. So that's why I think it's good that the shift is kind of gone. I think it just really just helps put more emphasis on the players. I think there are a lot more high scoring games, which is what you want. As much as I hate to say that as a baseball player, as a marketing perspective, you want to see more offense. You want to see more points scored. It's like like basketball, like the why the NBA is so popular. Guys are running up and down the court, just scoring, 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 scoring. I mean, that's what you want to see. NFL, same thing. So it's taken a lot of heat, I think. And I don't think they should stop now. I think they should keep doing stuff to keep the game relevant. I really hope they don't say we did it, we're done, we're gonna take a seat back and just wait a while. I really hope they keep stepping it up, but the game is definitely gotten younger, very significantly fast, I would say. You see that a lot more nowadays rather than a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. The one complaint I have is bring back the old World Series logos. Those were
Yeah.
incredible.
Those were
I
really
saw
cool.
last year's and I saw a post about it and I was like, yeah.
Yeah. No,
But
all the old like classic logos are so much better. Like they actually brought back the NBA Finals logo after a couple years because people just saw like the
yeah,
blocky like like literally like Times New Roman style like just like basic
yeah.
ass like
What was it
font.
like NBA Finals on TNT?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then they decided like, all right, we'll bring back like that black like cursive like finals logo, and it looks so much better like on the courts. It looks actually just like so like nice.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's I don't know. What do you think? What is your opinion on the everything like going on right now? The game's getting younger.
Yeah,
You,
I mean, it's
I feel like you got a lot more young stars in the game. Like Mookie Betts almost seems a little bit older now. He's more
yeah.
mature, which is weird.
It is definitely weird, and I do agree that the game is getting younger, and I actually think that we're starting to see the fan demographic kind of get younger, and I think that ballparks are adapting to that because when I went to the game at Fenway recently, just on this past Monday, I was in the center field grandstands, and they've essentially decided to say like, all right, the grandstands is going to just be like the college section where all like the college age and like like all like those like young adult people, like that's where we're going to seat them. That's where the student nines are going to be. Like that's where we're going to have them all go out there. And this year we're seeing like, fans like kind of having like parties out in like center field that when we were out there on Monday, people were chugging drinks out of their shoes. It was a fun time. Like people were just getting
Yeah,
really rowdy out there. And it seems like it doesn't seem like it's getting like dangerous. That people are just having a good time, like having fun. So as long as it stays like that, then I think that's something cool to add to the MLB experience and, almost have like an NCAA crowd, like, cause that's like what those sports like. I mean, an NCAA crowd just has like more passion, in my opinion, than any pro crowd ever could. Like they have
right.
just like talk about like a college football game is absolutely electric because those people are going nuts. So if you could get some sort of a passion like that for a sport like baseball, that would be huge and it would really change the game.
Right. I agree. I think it's very huge that they're starting to go in that direction because I don't want
It's
to
because
say
you
the
don't want to
same.
throw him behind home plate. Keep him far away from the field because
Yeah.
keep
Yeah.
that junk in
Yeah.
center field. I will say that.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to have it too close to like the family. So like section it off and just say like, hey, don't go beyond here. This is going to be an absolute.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just go crazy, do your own thing over there.
Mhm.
So
Pretty much.
yeah, I mean, I'm really excited though for the rest of the summer. Baseball's gonna be going on.
Also,
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, it's just yeah, baseball's back. Baseball's back. I think that's fair to say enough. Baseball's back.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I was gonna say, when I was at Fenway as well, I saw the new Truly deck that they have out in right field. That place is really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's very nice.
Yeah, it seems like so much like newer. I mean, it is the newest thing in the park. So, but it just seems very like modern compared to everything else. Like the bar setup they have there, like you can see the Nesson broadcast as it's happening in like the production room. So you kind of get that experience, which is really cool. And yeah, I really enjoy it. I think that that was something that Fenway kind of needed to kind of modernize it a little bit. I know that you want to keep the history of it all, but to have a modern amenity like that was really cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think I saw it when I was there a little while ago, and it's really cool. And I
Yeah.
think also just it might just be us being from Boston and everything else. I mean, I've really only been to the Red Sox games, but seeing just like you could like compare it to Polar Park, just the way that it's starting to try to just localize, make baseball more of a community thing. Like you have local food vendors, you have restaurants, you have all this right around the ballpark, and especially when
That's
the
always been
games are
big for
going.
me. Like rather than having just a generic like pizza stand at Polar Park, you have Wise Guys Pizza. You have like the local barbecue place out in right field. You have BT's Smokehouse is what it is, and Coney Island hot dog. So no, you
Exactly.
are right. To have like that local flair is really big. I like the fact that they're making it more of like more of a personality.
Right, exactly. And I think that's huge. And I think that's, I want to say that, I can't speak too soon, but I want to say that really depending on the other rules they implement and everything else, I think the game is definitely getting newer. And I think they almost had to. It wasn't really like, oh, like we probably should address this. It was really like make or break. And I think right now they're doing very well at what they shut it on.
I agree. I'm excited for where the game's going to go. So, we'll have to see how things go the rest of the season. I hope that they can continue marketing these players well. But John, unfortunately, we are now down to the wire, so we're going to have to wrap up this show and send you guys on your way. Before we do that, if you guys want to follow us, we're available on all streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. We're also on YouTube, and then you can find us on Instagram with a link in our bio to everything at down.to the wire on IG. So make sure you guys go check out that. John, is there anything you want to like shout out real quick?
Shout out Pat Edwards. It's birthday
Oh,
today.
you're right. Yeah,
Happy
today is Pat's
22nd.
birthday. Yeah, absolutely. I
Um,
I texted him
Shout
this
out.
morning.
Exactly. Texting him this morning. Great guy, friend of the pod.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, hope to see him soon. And one more thing. Aaron Judge did not cheat. That's allowed in baseball.
That's what oh yeah, no, like to talk about that quickly, like just speak on that. Yeah, about him not cheating.
Yeah, so he was pretty much he looked over at the dugout while he was in the batter's box, like looking at the first base coach or the dugout or whatever. Whatever. He says it was the dugout, just something going on.
Yeah.
Looks back, pitches getting thrown, and then he hits a home run.
Yeah.
Everyone's speculating, oh, you're cheating, you're cheating, you're cheating. That
That's
has
not
always
cheating.
been
That's
allowed in
that's
baseball.
always happened in baseball. And my big thing is
First
like
base coach usually has a better idea if they can see the pitcher. Even the guy on second can see the pitcher, what hand he's holding, and everything
if
else.
they can
Always
see
been allowed.
if they can see his grip, if there's a guy on second that can read the signs and he's relaying it to you, I don't have like that because that was a big thing with the Astros cheating scandal of them saying like, oh, like they're banging on trash cans. The Astros cheating scandal wasn't because they call it the sign stealing scandal. It's not the fact that they were stealing signs and like, you were like, it's not like they had a runner on second base relaying signs to the hitter. That's always been a part of baseball. That will always be a part of baseball. I mean, maybe not now with the pitch comp system. So we're seeing that kind of get taken out, but that wasn't the Astros cheating scandal. It was the fact that they set up a camera monitor in center field and were relaying it to a feed in their dugout. That was the big part. So no, I agree with you there. Aaron Judge, I don't consider that cheating. If you find out that there was a buzzer system, then maybe that's cheating. But if he's just looking
Right,
at his coach
exactly.
and getting a sign, that's always been allowed in baseball. You are right. That should always be allowed in baseball. So no, I actually forgot to bring that up. Thank you for doing that.
Of course. Then yeah.
Yeah, but all right. Other than that, yeah, you've been listening to us on WJMF 88.7 HG2 Smithville, Providence, or on WJMFradio.com. Today we talked about the Celtics Game 7 recap, as well as Doc Rivers being out in Philadelphia, the bubble rematch coming for the NBA, and the Spurs getting the number 1 pick. We also brought up the Boston Red Sox and the state of the MLB with marketing their product to younger viewers. So, John, thank you so much again for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. I hope to be on many more soon.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely hang out this summer, definitely do some more. So I'm excited for that. But from down the wire, I'm Brian Costa.
I'm John Warren.
We hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Take care. Peace out.